All right, guys, so last time we talked a little bit about nutrient timing and how that can play a factor. Today we're going to talk about protein timing and does it really matter? The first study we're going to look at is a meta-analysis by Brad Schoenfeld and company. And it says the title of the study was How Much Protein Can the Body Use in a Single Meal for Muscle Building? What some of the research shows is probably like 20 to 25 grams per meal was a good bolus. But the one drawback of that study, or a lot of those studies, is that used whey isolate as their protein source. So whey isolate in conjunction of itself digests really fast. So the absorption rate is probably going to be closer to 2 hours. So then you'd be able to have that 20 to 25 grams every 2 hours to make sure that the amino acids are going through the body and that you're not in a catabolic state. Now, if you add those protein meals with some source of carbohydrates, some source of fat, or whole food, that's going to slow down the digestion process. So that means you're allowed to eat more within those meals. So it still goes back to the simple explanation of you want 1.8 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram per body weight. And then you want to make sure that you're having that evenly distributed throughout the day in anywhere from a 2 to 5 hour window. I say 2 because if you have a lot of calories, you may have to eat more often. But typically, if you can get it between like 3.5 to 5 hours, that's going to be kind of where the digestion happens, the absorption rate happens, and that's kind of where you want it as far as protein timing goes. But you may have to narrow that window if your meals are really big. The next one is going to be the effect of protein timing on muscle strength and hypertrophy. It was another meta-analysis by Brad Schoenfeld and company. And what that showed was that the protein timing doesn't really matter as much in terms of that anabolic window post-workout. They looked at whether or not it was important to have protein within an hour of your workout being finished. And the results kind of show that it didn't really matter. The positive results were demonstrated in groups that actually increased their protein. So the more protein they had, the better stimulus they had, the better growth they had, but it wasn't necessarily a timing thing. So that's something you want to think about is, the anabolic window that everyone talks about may be anywhere from 4 to 6 hours post-workout. So you have those one meal and then you have the meal after that are kind of really important for recovery. So it doesn't have to be immediately after. I wouldn't worry about that too much as long as you're having that even distribution, that equal distribution like we talked about within the first study. And then this study shows the effects of supplement timing and resistance exercise on skeletal muscle for hypertrophy. And this was done by Cribb et al. In 2006. And what they did was they took a carbohydrate, creatine, protein supplement, and they did it pre and post workout. And then the next group was done in the morning and the evening. And the group that did pre and post workout showed significant improvements in body composition, putting on muscle, improving their strength. So what that kind of tells me in comparison to the timing one is that, yes, timing isn't that big of a deal immediately, but that window is important to start the idea of protein synthesis, to start the idea of the anti-catabolic stuff that you want to get rid of. So the timing does matter as long as it's not like extremely large windows of fasted protein. So with all that being said, you want to take equal distribution of your protein between 1.8 to 2.2 kilograms per body weight. They have done really good studies with protein overfeeding, where if you're going to overeat a macronutrient, protein is the best. We've talked about that before, where they did up to 4.4 kilograms per pound of body weight. And the group that actually had that with Antonio's study actually increased their calories, but decreased their fat compared to the group that didn't increase their calories. So it's a very interesting study, but it shows that even distribution is important. Timing immediately post-workout is not as important, but you don't want to have extremely long gaps where you're not having that protein bolus in. And that kind of goes to, should you have a protein source right before bed? And the answer is yes. You want some type of protein source. If it's slower digestion, the better. But there's still mixed research on that. But even protein distribution throughout the day, even if it is right before bed, is going to be better than cutting it off at certain times and having intermittent boluses of protein. So you want to make sure that even if you are snacking Maybe you have 2 meals a day and then 3 snacks a day. You want to make sure that those snacks also include protein equally. So that may be in that 20-gram range, where one meal may be 40 grams, another one, the snack may be 20. But as long as you're over that 20-gram marker every time, then you're gonna have positive effects, and you're gonna have more protein synthesis happening throughout the day. So you're gonna be less catabolic throughout the day. And that's kind of the idea that you wanna think about when it comes to protein timing. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you like it, share it. And then next time we'll talk about maybe more of the protein, how much protein is required, and some of the outlier studies like the Antonio one that shows how great of a macronutrient protein really is. So I'll talk to you guys then.